page now. That's cool. All right, so September 26th. So we entered sprints on Monday. The teams have signed up for big sprints. They're living large. The team is aware of how aggressive the timelines are. Project program management teams are really focused on making sure there is no churn and or blockers for the team, because we need to see consistent progress day over day. I'm going to ask everyone else to mute, please. What I've been focusing on is we put together a specification of what needed to be done to shut down a node properly. As we took on some work in our space, we discovered that we needed to take a step back and look at a broader picture. So that specification was done last week. I'm also working on the Mercury release specification. You can find this in the wiki with the other release plans. This really outlines everything that we will be delivering as part of Mercury. It's going to be a very large document. There's a lot of details and a lot of features that we're implementing. Of course, the ticket list that's going to go in to that traceability matrix will also be very large, but something that needs to happen. I'm also going to be working on the Node 7 release announcement. As you're aware, we will be releasing Node 7 the week of October 8th, patching Testnet on October 12th. Very excited about that. Later today, I'll be testing validator bonding with Kelly, myself, and Michael Birch. And it is our intention to test that on Tuesday. So do look in the node testing channel for updates on how to participate. And there may be some prerequisite hoops to jump through around provisioning test rev into bondable accounts. So if you want to participate in the validator bonding as part of Tuesday's test, do watch the node testing channel for potential updates and prerequisites that we may need from all of you in order to participate. We're going to try not to do that, but we don't know yet until we actually go through the test with Michael Birch what could be involved in that process. Moving on to the Rolang team. Cost accounting PRs have been cut. This is big. I mean, there's a lot of work that's gone into cost accounting. I'm very excited. We've got about 6 pull requests in GitHub that Mateusz has cut, comprising of unit tests and the base code, including parallelism, basically costing for parallel methods running in the interpreter. We do have an open question around the matching issue in the tuple space. There is a compromise that's been specified. Greg, you have that in your mailbox, and we are meeting with the team later to present to Greg. I believe it's just Greg and Mike Stay that are meeting, but Mike and Kyle, they represent the broader dev team that is also reviewing the documentation. The new block storage architecture.
I reviewed it last night.
Oh, excellent. So you should be ready to have that discussion at 12. Excellent. The new block storage architecture design and spec, the initial draft will be done this week. We'll put that out for review to the development team and then hopefully get into implementation quickly. It's a fairly big re-architecture to take on late in the project, so I'm anxious to see this done, as well as the hopefully performance improvements or stability that it will bring. On the registry front, now that the registry is complete, we're focusing on using it. And this involves supporting contracts to use the registry as well as crypto functions. So that's a good chunk of work that Kyle is working on this sprint. Part of that is also removing the ability to listen on forgeable names. This PR is in review. We've also made progress on making the interpreter stack secure. So all variants of the AST and Pretty Printer are now stack safe. There is still more work to be done. I believe Arturo will be working on that at least through this sprint. He pair programs with Tim, and Tim is working on some of the bugs that were recently filed against the grammar and functionality in Rolang, and Tim's making progress on getting those bugs addressed. We merged in an enhanced algorithm to find the most common ancestor in the DAG, and this addressed the invalid bonds cache error. And this represented also a new memory representation of the DAG. So now we've moved the DAG representation off of the block store into in-memory. And I've noticed that things are a little bit faster now. We have also ported the Clique Safety Oracle to use this in-memory representation. And I think this should help with show blocks. And one of the reasons show blocks was so slow is because the Clique Safety Oracle was using this block store that wasn't working properly. Validator bonding is merged, and as I said, we're going to be testing that later. This includes basic support for min-max fees, and we have moved on to implementing the validator bonding fees. And if you're not sure what those are, you can read up on that in some of the validator economics documentation and the validator validating on the RChain network documentation. It describes what the validator bonding fees are and how they will work. This is basically a hedge against Sybil attacks. So you can't just Sybil out the network by spinning up a whole bunch of nodes. Each node that bonds has to pay a bonding fee in addition to their stake. Let's see, we're also refactoring Casper to use new status messages from the communications layer. The communications team is also working on message queuing and chunking, and they're actually taking responsibility for ensuring that messages sent by Casper will be delivered. This is an important kind of line in the sand with respects to who's responsible for what. Casper will call the communications API and entrust the communications API to deliver those messages. Message queuing and chunking, we're going to be smart about what we queue and chunk. We're really going to focus on queuing and chunking the large messages, which are primarily blocks, vis-a-vis smaller messages, protocol handshake messages, communication-specific messages that really aren't very big, don't have to go through a queuing and chunking mechanism. They can just go because the comms layer controls the size of those messages, and it makes sense that we don't need to impose an additional overhead there. So queuing and chunking is really for blocks because that's where really the big behemoth messages are going to exist. The Kademli and RChain protocol are now separated. Note that the Bootstrap node address format has changed, and you can see the Bootstrap addresses page for the new format. That is pinned in the node testing channel. If you need a quick way to get to it, that's where you can get it. Let's see, Finegrained Locking. This is an important piece. The disjoint channels initial work is complete. The PR is merged. The system now does use disjoint channels when it can. Finegrained Locking for disjoint channels when it can. We did observe an improvement in processing speed, but for some reason we did not see the expected throughput improvement. So now we've got additional work item to have someone take a look at hotspots in the node where the node is spending time. I have Mike Stay's initial work. We need to just put somebody in charge of focusing on that and then going and solving that bottleneck. A node now reports its git hash version. So I believe it's an HTTP call on the same port where metrics is exposed. You can also find out where the node version is. We needed this for the testnet. So we discovered very quickly that we didn't know what the nodes were running, so we went ahead and implemented a feature for that. Working on threading improvements is a high priority for this sprint. The SRE team is on track to deliver a new CI system by the end of this sprint. We're also looking at upgrading to Java 10. Java 10 does have some enhancements in garbage collection. And for those of you that may be aware, there are some quirks with GC in the node. And so we're hoping to kind of see what Java 10 can bring to bear as a result. And we're working with the RSong team to bring the project into RChain CI. Rev issuance. The script to capture rock balances is available for the community to use and review in GitHub. The link is here in my update. Please do take a look at this so you can take part in the transparency of how we will be issuing Rev. Make sure your address is there as a result of running the script. Very important that the community be involved in making sure the issuance goes cleanly and smoothly. And we're working on the Incentivized Testnet. So work is in progress. So look for more information in October, and the start of the challenge is around in December. I'm going to open it up for questions. You can either speak or add the questions in the chat. I'll be looking at the chat. Mostly Kelly putting in pages here for everyone's benefit. Any questions? There's a lot in that update. Going once, going twice. Okay, feel free to chat me if you need to. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Metta. I really appreciate it. as always, very thorough and clear and concise. Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So I want to get an update from Reflective and Pythia before we dive into some other exciting topics. Who is here from Reflective? Who wants to give an update?
I'm here, Greg.
Awesome.
So I'll go ahead and give a quick update. First, I want to make an announcement and to the community that on the validator sale, so there's been some questions that we've seen on Discord. All of those should be, and I think Kenny posted it as well. They should be handled by Kenny and the co-op. So Reflective is behind the scenes on it. The lead on that is going to be Kenny and Greg. I don't want to mention your name, but I just did. As far as sort of taking some.
That's okay.
As far as taking some of that. So I just want everybody to know that. So that handoff has been made. So that's where all of the direction and the points should come from Kenny and the co-op from here on out. A couple of other things. We are going to have a strong presence, we meaning Reflective and RChain, at the San Francisco Blockchain Week. That's coming up the 7th through the 12th. So I know we're hosting a workshop. I know Joshy and some of the guys from the team are going to be down there. Greg, I know that you are speaking. Ned is going to be down there as well. I think about half the team from Reflective. Some of the portfolio companies will be there. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. So that's happening in San Francisco the week of the 7th through the 12th. So if any of you are going to be there, feel free to reach out to us for sure on that. Another event that's coming up. So we're still getting the details put together, but on November 8th, we've talked a little bit about this. Greg, I know you and I have, and that is the next deal day, and we're focusing that on specifically on women focused and run companies. So we're excited about that, and we've got a lot of very positive feedback to do something like that. So we actually are. So more details will come out for that. We have some good news from a lot of our portfolio companies. We've got, I believe there's 6 or 7 of them that have already set up nodes, and a handful of them are writing contracts right now. There's 5 or 6 that are very close, and all the rest of them are working with Ned. So I'm happy to report that all the companies are actively doing something right now with the progress of what's happened with RChain. And then speaking of the portfolio companies, I want to make sure to sort of educate the co-op and its members, because you all have a significant stake and interest in the companies that we are incubating. And when we place investment into the portfolio companies, it never is just a one-time shot of funds or rock or whatever it is. It is always delivered in tranches. So we delivered in tranches for a couple reasons, mainly so that portfolio company hits milestones that we have agreed upon. Some of those milestones are internal to them. Some of them are for them to actually be building or testing something on RChain. And of course, the ultimate is to be up, running live when RChain is up and going in the first quarter of the year. So I'm happy to say, and well, we're certainly trying to manage it. We have a ton of portfolio companies that are on task and on schedule and hitting those tranches. So we're excited to announce that we've got some great progress from all of those companies that we're part of. So I want everybody to know, rest assured, your investments are sound. The companies are doing what they should be doing, and we're really excited about their progress.
That is really great news. I just wanted to chime in right there. You probably have more to say, but I just wanted to say we kind of were looking over the website and realized that one of the things we don't have is a page for all the portfolio companies. And so I'd love to have the co-op have a page that mentions the portfolio companies and then puts up whatever information they've got about their tech, their architecture, their vision, that they want to share, and we could do links, of course, off to their sites, so that whatever traffic comes to the co-op also goes to the portfolio companies. So
yeah, of course.
That's awesome. We really should be working on that right away, so that people can see the vibe of the ecosystem.
Hey,
Yeah.
Greg, I'm on it. I actually sent you an email a little while ago. I've been talking to the web people, and I will have the content of that page ready this weekend, and we should have that up next week.
This is fantastic news. This is great news. Very, very good. And also, Greg, as you and I discussed, I'm going to make myself available to the portfolio companies personally to do a kind of architectural discussion, so that they can bounce their architecture off of me and my thick skull. And I'd love to be able to kind of get in there and offer our experience with building our song and what we know about the things that work and things that don't work currently, but we hope to be working soon, and things like that. Yeah. So I'm gonna be making myself a lot more available to the portfolio companies very shortly here.
I appreciate that, Greg, and that's something that they're asking for. In fact, we're with Ned, we've got our own channel set up, and with the communication and with all of them, and then we also hold monthly talks with all of them outside of the individual conversations we have with the leads on each of those. So I will thread you into those meetings, and we'll talk offline, Greg, but maybe we can get a set time once a week or whatever it is, sort of office hours for you to be dealing with them, because I know they've got those questions, and each of them are coming at it from a different angle. So I think it'll obviously help you guys in what you're doing in Metta's team to sort of hear some more in depth, because we have such a diverse group of companies with product sets as well. It's pretty spectacular to think that through. So I welcome that, and that with me is that is the update. So that's everything from Reflective.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great update. Lawrence, do you want to give the update?
Yeah, thanks. And just to follow on what you said, I would love to get you with the Lucidity team. They presented at RCon, and I think the most exciting thing to demonstrate, and your guidance on this is great, is that they've already got an Ethereum-based sidechain, and how they would move that, and maybe even talk through it in a public forum again, into RChain, I think is going to be a really good story for the community and the entire at-large blockchain community as to how that transition is taking place. So doing this a little bit out of order, if we can get that to happen, that would be great. I know they've been trying to get with Mike Stay, but your guidance would be exceptional.
I'd love to schedule that. If we can schedule that for about 2 weeks hence, I'd be all over it.
All right, I'll set up a separate thread with you and Miguel, the CTO from Lucidity.
Fantastic.
Cool. And that's really a lot of the grooming that we're doing right now, is that we're working with Ned and Metta and others, because there are a lot of smart contracts that are coming up, and because a lot of these companies have high scale, like Life ID and Trusted Key. And I really would love to be able to talk a little more about what they're doing with the healthcare industry. But maybe what we can do is, I know we used to do it, and we've had some extra time. Maybe we can do 5 or 10 minute updates on a rotating schedule through all of the portfolio companies, and just say, here's some exciting stuff since we became part of the ecosystem, because they do have some really good updates. That is the bulk of what we're doing. We're still looking through companies and being pretty selective in how we bring them on board and groom them. So one is a tax company, and I'm actually live chatting with Metta right now on that, and meeting with one of the other portfolio companies this week to talk about it. And then in another finance company, which hopefully we'll announce next week. I was hoping to talk about it this week. Of the companies we're going through, we're also going through a website update, so we'll announce that as soon as it's launched, hopefully early next week. events. We are headlining not headlining, but we're doing a big piece of the GeekWire Summit, which is, for those of you who don't live in Washington State, is one of the major outlets for tech, and this is going to get national coverage. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about RChain and some of the things that go on in Washington State. So that should be really exciting. Always looking for more qualified leads from the community. Love to have people involved. So please do reach out on Discord or pitches@pythia.com, and I will take any questions. Cool.
Thank you, Lawrence. I appreciate the update. Yeah, I'd love to engage with Lucidity and any of your other portfolio companies as well. I think what we should also consider or contemplate is some kind of demo day. I was really hoping to have a lot more portfolio companies giving some kind of demo at RCon 3. But between now and mainnet, maybe we can organize some kind of Seattle-based demo day for portfolio companies to show off where they are and to get feedback, get some market feedback. I think that'd be a lot of fun. We could make a party out of it. So yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Okay, moving on, that touches directly on marketing. So Patrick, I know that you've been wanting to make a regular update of marketing. Are you here today to give that update?
Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
Go for it.
Yeah, so to start, I think this is kind of a good format to give a high-level update of marketing. I'm going to start with infrastructure pieces we're working on, and then move into adoption pieces that we're working on of the different marketing work streams. So for infrastructure, one of the first things that we've been doing is working on brand consistency, so changing all the logos, and there's a couple outstanding assets that we will have to convert over to the new logo and style guide. So that's in the work. On a website front, we touched on the portfolio section. We're looking to update the website in a few different iterations, but some of the next ones you can look for are better information on the membership itself and that onboarding experience, the portfolio and partner companies, as well as the team. Because right now, currently our leadership is, it doesn't represent all of the great leaders that we have in the community. So that's an update on website side. As far as the membership portal goes, there's been a series of conversations and informal working groups formed around the update of the membership portal. So the first thing on I would say our plate, but Deanna is actually taking the lead on this, is the secure member elections for the October elections coming up. Once that's done, and we've already begun pre-planning, there's been a lot of groundwork with requirements building. We will work on an actual update of the membership portal, which will include two big pieces, which is membership onboarding experience, so that the members come in informed and connected. And then the second one is membership contribution experience, so how you can get involved. The next big piece is the blog. It's currently going through some design updates, including navigation, style, and also we are integrating it in with the main website. So that will help with SEO as well as just total consistency. So it's in one location. Then another big piece that I'm super excited to get started, it's still in planning phase, but it's the launch of a project-based e-learning portal. Josh is taking the lead on that, and he's synced with Jack, who is now Pyrofex's new technical liaison, and then also the implementation team that will work to steward the actual portal itself. So we're super excited for that. We've seen a lot of community feedback that it's really, really fun to build proof of concepts and learn by playing. So that's what we're going to focus on. Another piece that was called out that I did a little bit of work on was kind of information resources. which I think it was asked by Rich, or it would be beneficial to have like organizational charts and visual understandings of the ecosystem. So I took a first stab at one of those for the marketing organization. Right now, it's a Kumo one, which was recommended by Rich of the Hum, who's very experienced at decentralized organizations. It's right now going through internal circulation for feedback and stuff because it's still fairly messy. But the intention is, and there's certain things like privacy. What information do we give contacts and things like that? It's just like right now it's just Discord and a brief description and some connections that need updating. But the intention for that would be use that as a proof of concept. And I have like a fairly lofty goal, but I hope it works, is to create something like that for the total ecosystem that's managed kind of or stewarded like a digital commons, so like a living library, but it's a visualization. And then hopefully it could be done on something like a social ledger or a tool like Kumo, where it's more interactive than static. Okay, then the next piece of infrastructure is email communications. We're working out, Derek and Ian and the rest of like the team around email communications is working out two forms of communications to start. There's the internal membership communication, and there's the external subscriber to the newsletter communication. We're working out a cadence. I think we're going to start. I think it's twice a month or it's once a month. Derek, keep me honest if you have it off the top of your head.
Subscriber email goes out tomorrow. It'll be weekly on Thursdays.
Nice.
You're referencing twice a month will be the co-op membership email we want to start.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think that will go a long way to that getting members more informed part, and also interested people who have yet to be a member to understand and update on the actual ecosystem itself as it develops. So thanks, Derek. You've been a huge help on that. And then now moving into adoption. So I already touched on the big developer education piece. A lot of content is going to be generated from that. We want to support and promote all of these project-based learning initiatives that come out of this portal, and also the community. I know that CoLab has started, so this is exactly what we want. On the blog front, we're increasing the frequency, and there's high demands for different types of content. Last week we published 7 articles, and our intention, and we also started or have been syncing with all of the partner organizations, so that we have curated content and thought leadership from them. So those are like the portfolio companies. We have spotlight articles, RChain EU, Asia, and then individual community thought pieces. So that's another exciting arm. On social media, it's growing daily. It grows daily. But one of the things that we noticed is we want to increase and Derek is another one that pointed this out, we want to increase our engagement with the social media channels. So we are interested in considering community members or community managers to engage with social media. And in particular, we're looking for people who have a research mind and they're interested in immersing themselves in the ideas themselves around DApp community, DApp development, so that we're inspiring a community of thought leadership as opposed to kind of just shilling RChain. The next piece of the next piece of adoption is meetups and events. So I'm formalizing like a meetup information resource, or that includes it could include a framework for an organization to meet up, an order of operations, how to use the brand, some presentation templates and style guides, and then it will also include a policy for proposing to be reimbursed for a meetup. So if you want to launch your own, and there's already initiatives in Nigeria and like Asia and everywhere, and we want to empower those as much as possible. So that's big. And then some things I've been brainstorming about is how to tie that in with the project-based learning initiative. So that will most likely result in idea-centric hackathons, which is going to be like really fun. But that's still like very much in brainstorming session or phase. And then the next piece is conference outreach and sponsorship strategy for the next 6 months. We've outlined a list of blockchain-centric conferences, but also non-blockchain-centric conferences that surround around the ideas and the visions that we want to promote. So we'll look to set those against a budget, a roadmap, and include and deploy to those conferences. So that's a big piece. We like growth through genuine peer-to-peer connections. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on. The next piece is community development. So there's been active brainstorming from the marketing group, developer relations group, on ways in which we can participate and reinvigorate the reboot of the bounty system. Those conversations are still ongoing, but I'm hopeful that we'll get to a point in which all incentives are aligned. The next, and then just a note, we're also syncing and in continual conversations with RChain EU, because they are deeply considering, like, they're building toolings for this type of stuff. So just mind melding with them about community empowerment has been very informative. So that's kind of a high level update of infrastructure and adoption. And then the next phase I wanted to open up to, first of all, the team in case I missed anything, and then questions and answers or comments and suggestions.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I really appreciate the update. I think there are some feedback that I've been getting. I've been hearing from a number of different corners that on the website, the people miss seeing the board. So putting the board back is probably a good idea. I think it would be useful for people, especially from the perspective of the kind of the value system that we're trying to evoke. Having the board back on the website would be a good idea. What?
And Pyrofix.
We'd also we want to make sure that we get our partners up on the website. So, for example, Pyrofix I think would be a good partner to have listed on the website, and in general, just being able to make the most hay out of the network of partnerships and relationships that we've got, which is sort of what the co-op is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 1,000,000%. So when I spoke about the update of that leadership section, that I meant to include that will include board as well as kind of influential figures in the ecosystem, in the co-op, that people can go to, or they know who to find to do certain things. And then on that partner front, we spoke about the portfolio companies being highlighted, and we're thinking through like navigational stuff to not make the website so huge. Do you have input on? I mean, this is web design stuff, so we have web designers for this. But do you think that this should be a single partnership section, or portfolio companies and partner companies, or sister co-ops, or what's your take on that?
I mean, that's a great question. I would be happy to kind of spend some time with you to talk about my design ideas, which are I mean, you could take a grain of salt and maybe a margarita or something. So we can find some time. We can also elicit some feedback from the wider community. So I really I think maybe now is not the time to go into the website design.
All right, understood.
Yeah, but for sure, I think the high level takeaway is the co-op is as strong as its relationships, right? That's sort of what we've been talking about for some time. If you remember in the governance forum, what Mukara was saying was she had a pretty powerful formulation. It was relationships are all there is. And so I think one of the things we really want to do is to stress our relationships with all of our partners and members and other kinds of engagements. So that I think that would be good to have front and center as easy to get to as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Any chance that the whole marketing team will be available anytime during the work week for the community or staff to be on a call with marketing? Because I know everyone has their own internal meetings, but marketing is such a touchy subject that I think it would merit, its own meeting, completely separate, because there's just so much content to work on.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. There is a lot of content. We have a lot of great stuff. And so speaking of that, in terms of great stuff, I would like now to switch over to some technical content that also has some significant business relevance. So not the last community hangout, but the one before, I mentioned that we would make sure to have the RSong demo live running against the node and for everyone to be able to pound on from their phones. So that's the case. We've been going back and forth. We've been making it live and discovering bugs and making it live and discovering bugs. But we feel it's ready to get pounded on much more seriously. People can check it out. You can do packet sniffing. You can see that the service is in fact live and running from our node. And I'd like to bring Kayvon Kaziminijan into the conversation to talk a little bit about the architecture and sort of the pluses and the minuses in terms of our experience. So Kayvon, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Are you? Can you speak a little bit? Do you have an architectural diagram?
Yes, I can share my screen.
That would be wonderful.
1 second, please. Let me clean it up. All right. So
and while Kayvon's doing that, in terms of marketing, I've always felt that our actual work is our best marketing.
So hopefully everybody can see my screen.
Yeah, it's a little tiny.
Okay. No problem. Let's blow it up. How is this?
It looks good.
Cool. So down here, what you won't be able to see is just the mobile phone. But basically, from a very high level, this is the diagram that we have today. You can, for Android users, you could go to the Google Play and download the app on your Android device. You could do that anytime. For iPhone, send me an email with your email address and or send Greg an email, and then we'll try to coordinate that for you. So about the architecture, it starts from Immersive Studio. As you know, they have the 3D music. I cannot speak for the technology there. That's something that they do. From our perspective, basically we have the music binary files and we have the associated metadata and the artwork. And at some point, they formulate a complete package that we could be considered as an asset that we could bring into our RSong infrastructure. And that's this part, RSong acquisition. It's a very lightweight Scala app. It's in GitHub. I will walk you through that shortly. And it basically just makes API call to this cloud storage that Immersive has. It turns out that they're using Dropbox for now. So it makes an API call, downloads the assets, and it pushes those assets to blockchain. In our case, of course, that's our node. Today, our node for this project is running on a Google Cloud. It's an 8 CPU VM that's dedicated to our node. It's got ample storage and memory to be able to deal with the load that we're putting on it. One of the things that we noticed is, at least where we are today, it's really a lot to ask for blockchain to be able to power a real-time mobile application with real-time demands. The requests that are coming from mobile devices, they're downloading somewhere between 4 to 8 megabytes of songs in a matter of milliseconds. And to be able to put that through blockchain with consensus and such, it's just milliseconds is very demanding. In order to alleviate this response time and make it to real time, we started introducing caching. And in this case, we're using Redis cache. So basically, when the assets go to our node and they reside there till we start interrogating them, a request from the mobile device comes in through the proxy, which is running on a Kubernetes cluster. And it's probably too small, but I am showing you the infrastructure here on this terminal. Basically, the proxy is running on 4 Kubernetes pods, and then we have the Redis slave and master that are running on the remaining 3 pods. I'm showing you this because I want to make a point that the architecture will scale. As the load on this system goes up, within a matter of seconds, we start spinning up more proxies and more Redis clusters. So handling load is not a problem for us at this point. Right, so the proxy basically gets the request and it starts going to the Redis cluster. In the cluster, songs, metadata, and user data are memoized, meaning that since it's an expensive round trip to retrieve those, once we retrieve those, we hang on to them. We cache those. So if the payload is found in Redis, we serve it. In that case, it takes for a between 4 to 8 megabyte of song, that takes about 1 to 3 milliseconds to download within the infrastructure that we have. If it's not in the memoized cache store, then we go into the R node and we fetch it from R node. In that case, it really depends on what other processing we're doing in the chain. It could take somewhere between 10 to 15, sometimes 25 seconds to download the music. For the user data, those are smaller data, so they don't take as long. But it's still a lot faster to do that from the Redis cluster. So that's how it's working today. As I'm working on this architecture, we're considering basically to be able to run small microbatches to continuously have the Redis cache and the blockchain be in sync. And these are just basically very small jobs that are scheduled within the Kubernetes cluster that they just come in and they look at a work queue within the Redis cluster, and then they do the synchronization. I anticipate that each one of these microbatches would probably take about 10 to 15 seconds to run, and then they go off. Running them in this format allows us to batch the consensus and submit batches, which makes the whole blockchain process a lot more efficient than having to get consensus per request. That would save us a lot of bandwidth. At the same time, I'm adding monitoring to this infrastructure. We're using Prometheus. Today, we keep track of the requests that are coming in. So we have metrics for each route that's being interrogated, as well as the response, whether we responded with 200 or 400, and the time that it took to satisfy those requests. So all those metrics will be available within the next few days for us to consider. If the proxy starts experiencing too many errors and it starts sending pager notes, right now it just sends me those pager notes, so I can see what's going on. But I'm saying that because we're putting in, we basically are making it an engineering product from a POC, and that's the exercise that we're doing today. If you are interested to play with this, everything is in GitHub. So if you just go to the main repository for RChain, hopefully you could see. You should be able to see the rsong proxy, and you will see the rsong acquisition. There we go. In addition to these, what I have in plan is to develop or to write a Docker compose where all these pieces would be in one unit that you could just download to your Mac or PC or Linux or whatever, and fire it up. Meaning that the proxy, the acquisition, the node, and the Redis cluster would be one file, one Docker Compose file that you just execute, and you could start playing with this in your own local environment to see how it works. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much, Kayvon. I know you worked incredibly hard, and this was an exceptionally lucid and concise presentation of the architecture. I think it's just really, really. So what kind of? So Phil just asked what kind of data is stored on chain. I'll turn it over to you.
Good question. So as you, I mean, he's asking that he already knows what the answer is. We can only store strings into chain. So we're dealing with binary assets, binary songs, and binary artwork and such. So we basically go through a transformation, and when we save those as regular strings into the node, and then when we retrieve those, we go through a secondary transformation and put them back in terms of the binaries that they are. Was that the question? Did I answer?
I mean, it seemed like a clear answer.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of things. This is really just a proof of concept. There are all kinds of things about this that we would want to improve. For example, there's a whole DRM management fleshed out. There's a lot of information about the relationship between the cache and the node that we would like to see shifted, right? So we'd like to see the node be quite a bit more responsive. Another thing that really needs to be done here is to take the node. Right now, currently the demo just has one node running. What we really want is a lot of nodes running, all of which are engaged in running the Casper protocol, to begin to put the Casper protocol under load. So all of these things are things that we want to look at carefully, and we believe that this is a very nice framework in which to drive the kind of performance and stability requirements that we have for the node. So if you think about it, we just launched Testnet. So at the moment that we launched Testnet, to also have an application template of this level of depth and detail, where you can actually see a business case for the application, as well as get some hard data about how the node is performing and where we need to get to see some improvement, I think is nothing short of remarkable. So I think this is a really, really good start, and I'm hoping that everyone who wants to build applications with RChain can use this as a resource. one of the things that's really important when we look at the blockchain ecosystem in general, and I don't want to name names, I'm not blaming anyone, but a lot of the projects that are associated with even blockchain 3.0 efforts are all what I would call navel gazing. So a block explorer doesn't have anything to do with value to the outside world, right? It's really just about the particular chain. And there are so many kinds of projects, even in this late stage where we have blockchain 3.0 projects, which are all about just the world of whatever chain it is, whether it's Tezos or EOS or even Ethereum. This application is decidedly different in character. So let me give you an example of one of the things that Kayvon didn't really talk about, but that happens at the business level quietly and behind the scenes. So quietly and behind the scenes, a user is actually getting a very wallet-like kind of thing. So an account is created for the user, and the user is associated with something that is holding the number of playbacks associated with them, right? So so they have so many tokens, and that token count is being decremented as they do playbacks. So the user's experience is primarily focused not on the crypto side of things, but on the experience of finding and listening to music that they love and having a delightful and surprising auditory experience. To support that, we have to build what is effectively a wallet and kind of bring them over into the crypto world. And we believe that this, or at least I would like to submit to the community, that this is the way we reach to the last mile. We provide people with delightful experiences and just make the crypto side of things seamless. It just works. They're not even thinking about the crypto experience. It's not front and center that they now have a wallet that's managing tokens for them, right? What's front and center is this experience of listening to music. And I think that this is, again, this talks about putting the real value proposition up front. This is all about users getting access to songs they love. It's about artists reaching audiences and being able to be fairly compensated for their work. But that's front and center. And the truth is that RChain just kind of fades into the background, right? RChain is just there to support that experience. It's not all about a kind of navel gazing, looking at RChain. It's much more about serving a community that has been underserved or not well served, right? So that's the difference between a kind of application like that versus another discussion group about your favorite blockchain, right? It's a fundamentally different shift here, and it's maybe not as easy to see because we're taking a lot of efforts to put the user experience first and foremost.
Yeah, if I may, I didn't speak to the contract itself at all. The contract is actually in a way that when a user requests to listen to a song, we interrogate the contract with that particular song that they would like to listen to and their user ID. And the contract would start manipulating the tokens that they have, decrementing them for that particular song. Although today that token is global, it's for the entire software. But we could manipulate it per song or per user. And in any event, it will make a determination whether this user has enough tokens in their wallet or not. And then they can listen to the music. And concurrently, everybody that's associated with that art, everybody that's associated with that music, the composers, the writers, the artists, all their wallets are also in the contract, and they're all getting fulfilled per this request. And the contract is available in GitHub for anybody that would like to see how that's being done.
So, for example, I'd love to hear from Ed, because I know wallets are near and dear to Ed Eichholz.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so kind of the business proposal here is make a desirable experience front and center, and kind of make the wallet side discoverable, right? So the wallet, it looks impoverished, but if we spent more time on this, what I could imagine is that the player sort of through certain kinds of engagement, which could be gamified, by the way, unfolds into a more fully featured wallet. Does that make sense, Ed?
Yeah, it does. I agree with what you're saying, that you have to solve the user experience or the business problem first. In some cases, that's completely hiding any kind of wallet and crypto experience. And I know, for example, with Life ID, and you're using their application to authenticate somewhere or to unlock a door or whatever, that could be completely without the user experiencing the tokens at all. But if you want to tip an artist, well, then all of a sudden explicitly tip, not just by using their playing their song. Then you're going to get into wallet and funding, and so that's your one pathway into revs, for example, or whatever.
That's exactly right. And so now, if we open the curtain a little further, the aim with applications like this, and there's nothing specific to this that wouldn't also go into a photo sharing application, for example. But the aim is, if we have a certain number of artists across the range of, say, mid-tier to high profile, and they were to bring over, let's say, even 5 to 10 million users, right? And those users engage the platform, let's say, as infrequently as 10 times a month. Then we are now talking 50 to 100 million transactions at a minimum per month, which is a kind of volume that if you couple that with the kinds of transactional volumes we are expecting from financial applications, it's the kind of volume that we've just never seen on blockchains, right? This is like real, genuine application, sort of Web 3.0 kinds of volumes on the blockchain, which then should make the chain extremely attractive to validators. So that's the whole idea with this approach. And I think that again, this unfolding of application features from a player to a wallet, from a wallet to a player, from a photo sharing app to a wallet, and from a wallet to a photo sharing app. These kinds of interlocking features, again, that can be gamified, have a potential to drive transaction volumes like we've never seen, and that's what I think is so exciting about this.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think a lot about WhatsApp and WeChat kind of models.
Yes.
How there's much more than a chat application, for example, when you get into their ecosystems.
If I may, even with this, I've seen companies like Vivo use such applications, and then they bring in curators, where they make playlists, and then they share them in different parties. So it's not just the artists. You could also bring in DJs and curators that make different playlists and then share them with parties, and then you start attaching social aspects to this app where a group of people could actually share these playlists while they're chatting to each other via video.
Exactly. And now, if we take a step further back and recall the beginning of the conversation with the reflective in Pythia, I would love to have presentations like this from all the portfolio companies. If we had a crisp, clear presentation of their architecture and how it's using the R node, what their challenges were, what their hopes are for R node in the future, and then how it fits into this larger token economics kind of discussion, which we were just having. I think the more people can see the kind of rich application value and how that lines up with token economics, the more people will just want to move over into this onto this chain. So with that, unless there are any other burning questions or updates, we're 2 minutes over. Any other questions, updates from the community or anyone here?
Hey, it's Fabian. I just want to chime in quickly and just say, Kayvon, the work you're doing is amazing. Everything that's coming together around our song and the build out of what a future ecosystem around music, fans, rewards, publishing, performing rights, podcasts, ticketing, the foundation of that is all happening right now. So I'm really excited about the work that you're putting together. So I wanted to express that. And I also wanted to express that I think it's a really big deal that Testnet exists in the world. And I would like to encourage for that news to get out there first and foremost on our homepage. I think it'd be really good for people who are being introduced to RChain to discover that there's actually something to start playing with. And I'd like to see some version of click here to start playing with Testnet to exist on our homepage. And finally, I would also like to say that as a whole group of the RChain team is going to be at the San Francisco Blockchain Conference, Derek and I will be at the Los Angeles Blockchain Conference on October 10th to 12th. So if some of you are going to be there, please find us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think with that, we have... I am running over. I need to be at the cost accounting. So, and there was a question about updates about the validator sale, which I'm very excited to give. I will batch those up and give those all next week. With that, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to jump off and go to cost accounting. Ciao, guys.
Thank you.
All right.